Nice chunk brownie. Hit the Spanish bullet. Coolie Rojos. Nice chunk. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Thank you, buddy. So cool. Just went right down to the bottom there. So this particular fish, I made a really short cast, and I have a 10-foot 9-inch rod, so just call it 11 feet. He pretty much hit maybe 12 feet in front of me here. Probably making about a 20-foot cast upstream, and if he hit 12 feet in front of me, you know, that was an 8-foot drift, and that's about what I was expecting right here. Just this really short drift, casting upstream, kind of dealing with some wind, so I don't want to cast too far up, so I'm just making a really nice tuck cast, getting it down, expecting an 8 to 10-foot drift at most. And that's what I want to do for this video. I want to talk about drifts and the length of drifts that you should expect. You don't always have to have this. Everything's not perfect where we're sitting at the stream perpendicular. We're making this long cast ahead of us, 45 degrees, and drifting in front of us and then below us, getting this really long drift. Some runs we can absolutely do that, but you can't expect that every time you cast. So sometimes you're going to get really short drifts, but you want to be thinking about it. You want to make your cast efficient, get your bugs down, and make that drift count, especially if you have this really short window. So as I work my way up here, I'm just going to tell you what I expect to get out of each and every drift. So hopefully when you're out on the water next time, it can help out. So right here, you can see it's pretty heavy water here. We actually had some rain last night, and it's got a little color to it, and the CFS picked up a little bit, but still really nice water. So I'm just making about a 20-foot cast, driving it in, and right now I'm in my drift, and that's all I'm expecting. I'm not expecting this really long drift. Just driving it, bringing it right back to me. I don't have to have it drifting back to my feet. The fish are not going to be there. Just driving it, getting into the drift right away. Now I'm going to fish this water to the side of me. I might expect a little more out of it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way up the stream. In each cast, I'm going to access a different place on the bottom. So let's take a couple casts out here. Got to really lean into the wind. I might have to go up a bead size. I have a 2.8 on the bottom. It's not bad right there. There you go. So I drove that guy down. It's a little bit soft spot out there. And that was probably a 25-foot cast. And I was expecting more out of the drift there because that wasn't up and across. So I was able to get him out here. And there's a, how crazy is this? Look at this, the fish just got tangled. Look at this. This is beneath the rock and the fish just got tangled in that. How crazy is that? That is absolutely nuts. So how'd you lose that fish, Corey? Well, there was a beach towel in the beautiful river that it got tangled in. It's pretty nuts. That is absolutely insane. I'm gonna toss this dude up on the bank and take it out with me. Okay, so that was, spent a lot of time on the stream, and that was a first. That was a first. A beach towel caused me to lose that fish. Anyway, he was right there at the net, so there's a big upstream wind here, or downstream wind I should say, so I'm going to wait a moment. The soft spot out here, probably a 25-foot cast, really, and the stream is kind of curving back towards me, so I can get a really pretty decent drift there, maybe a 15-foot drift, but I'm not going to go by me because there's a couple rocks. So I'm going to drive it. And my drift, well, you know what? I take that back. See, look at that. I can go right on by me. It gets kicked out right there. So this is a traditional up and across, even though there's quite a bit of wind. So that's probably 15 feet in front of me, and there's a fish. So getting the traditional up and across here because I'm standing perpendicular to this run, and it's allowing me to do that. And if he hit the dropper, I got a size 16 penny paragon. That's a Pat Weiss pattern. Pretty good bug. No, I'm sorry. There you go. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. How dare me? That's a Jack Daniels on the dropper. I had a penny paragon. I switched it to the Jack, and he nailed that guy. So 25-foot cast. The river's kind of coming back towards me. So, you know, I get people say all the time, there's no way you can cast that far and get a perfect drift. Well, every river does not flow perfectly left to right. In this case, as I'm standing perpendicular, everything isn't just in these perfect lines. The bank curves around, so the river's flowing, it's curving around, so I can make a 25-foot cast up. And I was getting this perfect drift because it was coming slightly back to me, and right in front of me was about 15 feet. I was able to extend my rod out, and he hit directly in front of me here, just below that rock there. So I can do it up and across here. Wind's getting it. There's a fish. He was right in front of me. I don't know if you saw what I did, but when I said the wind's getting it, I just leaned into it a smidge and almost getting Colorado drift, which is inverting my sighter. So the wind's going like this, so my sighters are like that. I stalled it out, and then what happens is the wind catches it, the current catches it, and almost shifts it down into the zone. So I'm stopping. Now I'm inverting my sighter, and it accesses the bottom. I actually felt it tick, even in this wind. There we go. Decent fish. That was the typical up and across there. Just the perfect run in water. I'm actually standing high on a rock, and just everything to my advantage here. This is a really nice fish. Swing him around here. Put a pink beaded waltz on. So let's get him up a little bit further. A bit more still right here. Slip him into the net. Nice fish. Real nice brownie. Thank you there, buddy. Let's get him back out here. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Thank you there, buddy. You can see this water it's actually gotten a little bit more off color since I've been here, but I actually stood up on these rocks here. It's fairly deep in here. I've got 3 feet of sighter on, or I'm sorry, I got 3 feet of tippet on. I am using 6X in this heavy water here, but you know, this is just such a, once again, the river down there was curving if I'm looking downstream, it was curving around from the left to the right. Here, it's actually curving right to left. So I made about a 25-foot tuck cast up there. And then out here, because I was standing up, I was able to elevate my rod and I got a really long drift in here, and he kind of hit right out in front of me, I think. But this was, I'm getting very long drifts in here, even though I'm casting far away. Once again, the river's kind of curving back towards me. So everything, once again, is not these perfectly straight lines. Sometimes it's like this, you cast here, and then the drift can actually go like that, which is what it's doing here. Actually, I got a 2/8 bead on him. I'm a little surprised I was able to get down. That's some heavy water. It's deep too. Let's see if I can't pop another. Just tuck it in there. I'm just really getting a nice drift. See, it's actually coming back towards me. And this is like the perfect area here to run a mop through, just because it's deep. Really got a downstream wind, and that's a really stable drift right there. There we go. It's a nice fish. This is just great mop water right here. I caught that one on the waltz, and then I just felt like I just wasn't getting great drifts, although I got one obviously, but put the mop on, really get that stable drift, and you can see it hit my dropper. I thought it was a lot bigger. I love how hard they fight here. I mean, it's a nice fish, but it really stabilized the drift and slowed it down, and he hit the size 20 olive flash paragon. Thank you there, buddy. Boy, he fought bigger. A nice chunk though. So right here, just traditional up and across drifts. I'm getting fairly long drifts. I'm fishing probably maybe 18 feet or so in front of me. So I'm casting, I'm extending my rod, my arm out here a little bit, so I'm gaining another 2.5 feet, just getting, and the river's curving from my right to, it's curving around my body here, so the drift is kind of drifting circular around me from my right to left, so just getting really nice up and across drifts. And I don't have to tuck it hard because it's slow up there. And it just really gets the depth. I get a really nice drift. But the mop is not only is it a great fly, it's just a great tool. When you get high winds, especially those downstream winds, it can really stabilize the drift for you. Really slows it down, the volume, the size of the fly, and it soaks up that water, and it just really slows everything down. There's another fish. I don't know if I had you on. This feels like a decent one too. Oh yeah. Nice fish. Popped off. Damn, that was a hell of a nice fish. Hell of a nice fish. Them's the breaks. I say it all the time. You certainly don't want to lose. Boy, I was fishing the other day. I lost a lot of nice fish that day. But I say it all the time. Of course we want to get every fish in, but that's just not reality. Part of fishing is you're just gonna lose some. But if you're losing fish, or if you're getting the strike, you're doing something right. So just look at it as a bit of a moral victory that you're hooking them, because you're doing something right. And you just got to replicate that over and over and over. Now, it's a nice fish. What I did, that was a 35, is probably over a 35-foot cast, way over there. Kind of a hero cast. This is a really, really nice fish. This is a stud. I'm going to tell you what I did to get this fish and what my expectations were. Just a really nice fish here. Oh, net. That is an 18-inch fish. That is a stud. That is a stud. Might be over 18. Got him on the Jack Daniels. I'm telling you, that Jack Daniels it's becoming my Waltz worm. Let's go over here. Use calmer water. Yeah, 18 inches. Heck of a nice fish. Look at that guy. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. Thank you, buddy. That is just awesome. Shooting across there. So let me just tell you here what I did. Sometimes you're not going to get the perfect drift. Sometimes you're going to get a drift that's 2 feet long, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's exactly what my expectations were. This heavy water here, that is just a beautiful looking, kind of, it shallows out, it's nice and shady, got a big rock there. It's just a great spot for a nice fish like that, beautiful brownie. And what I did is, that is probably, it's not 40, but that was definitely 35-foot cast. And people, once again, you can't get a good drift when you cast that long across the stream. I don't care about that. What I care about is getting a drift that long, and that was my expectations. I shot it across there, and it just hit, and it drifted maybe a foot or two, and boom, the fish was on it, and it eventually would have swung out, and that's okay. And that's, you know, sometimes it's okay to cast long, and what's the big deal if it does swing out? All you're trying to do is work it a little at a time, get the best drift you can on a long cast, but don't expect to cast 35 feet and get a 20-foot drift. It's impossible to do that. And I'll tell you this time of year, lots of bugs hatching. You know, these fish are very active, feeding, and you know, we always talk about the swing at the end of the drift. Sometimes it's going to swing in front of you, and just as long as it's not getting ripped by the current, you'd be surprised how many fish you catch when it just starts to move. It's no different than swinging below you. You can actually have it swing out in front of you. So don't worry about getting these really long drifts. Just try to be really accurate and just get a couple feet, let it swing below you and recast, and just kind of move up and just try to work it the best way you can. And that was perfect, man. I love that stuff. So that big fish, once again, that was 35 feet over there, and I just shot it across there. Really did a water load. And he hit 2 feet into the drift. And see, it's actually starting to come towards me, and I'm okay with that. Because all I care about is getting just some sort of a drift. I cannot wade over there to get closer. And it's too good of a spot not to take a cast. So don't be afraid to take a long cast. Just make sure it's really accurate. Make sure you drive the bugs down right away so you can get some sort of a short drift, because you never know, you just might pop it right on their head. And that's exactly what happened with that guy. A lot of times on those really long casts, overweighting helps, because and that was, I had put a 3-3 bead on, and the reason you want to overweight is, one, it's easy to shoot it across, but two, even in the shallow water, it's going to get the depth right away. You're going to get tight and stable to it, and that's where you can get those really short drifts. So the next time you do those really long casts where you just can't wade close enough, overweight, be accurate. You'll get tight to your bugs right away. There we go. I'm going to tell you what I did there. Now this is a little guy, but actually that's the way I like to release those little guys. So made a long cast, and there's a rock here, and there's a bit of a slow spot, and the current comes around this rock. So you've got the rock at the head there, and then you got a rock behind it. So the current hits and it splits around this rock right here. It splits. I threw it probably 25 feet over there, and it landed in the soft spot. Then what I did is I actually elevated my rod and I pulled the bugs towards me to get it in that current, and I pulled them, and when it hit the current, it didn't move 12 inches downstream, and the fish nailed it. So once again, you can do a lot of things to your drift. You can manipulate it. You can lift it up, drop it down behind rocks. You can pull it into another seam if you overcast, or sometimes like that time, I intentionally cast it farther because I knew I could get it to depth, and then just kind of slowly pull it over to get it going downstream. Sometimes it's harder to drive it down and get it in that seam. So that was the easiest thing to do it. So it's just one of those things, once again, you got to kind of think your way around the stream and just think, okay, I want to get it in this seam, but is it easier to plop it over and pull it over, or try to tuck it in that white water? To me, it was just easier to put it in that still water. So I'm just going to show you. So I popped it over there and it started going down. Now I just pull it over and boom, it gets right in the seam, and I had a perfect drift. So just think about that the next time you're having a hard time getting a good drift down the seam. If you got slow water on one side, overcast, pull it over, and then boom, you can just drop it right into the seam. You get a perfect drift. Okay, this is another situation here where I want to pop it over this heavy water. So I got a 3-3 bead on. I'm not expecting a ton out of the drift, but with this heavy water, I expect them on the over there. It's one of the times that you're going to see me really extend my arm out. It's because I'm trying to get as much as I can out of that drift. There we go. Once again, don't be afraid to make those long casts, and I'll tell you, seems like a pretty nice fish again. I'll tell you what I did here. Oh yeah, this is a nice fish. Solid. He hit the Jack Daniels. So what I did is, good 16 incher, 15, 16. What I did there is I made a few casts further up. You know, I got a couple feet of drift, took it back out, made a couple more casts, and then that one I actually threw a little bit further down to the left, and I was just, you know, I was accessing water that I wasn't there before, and that wasn't a foot of drift. And he nailed it. So you hear it all the time. You can't possibly fish. Thank you there, Mr. Brown. You can't possibly fish farther than outside your rod tip, and that's absolutely not the case. You just saw me do it there. You just saw me do it over there. Popped out two really nice fish. Euro nymphing is not always right under the rod tip. And That's this stigma, for the lack of a better way to explain it, that Euro nymphing is. It's just plop it up, run it under the rod tip, plop it up, run it under the rod tip. Out of all the types of casting and techniques and drifts I'm trying to do out on the course of the day, I would say probably 90% of my fishing is not underneath the rod tip. It's across, it's in front of me, working back. Most of my fishing is that. When I get in runs, this is pretty heavy, and I'm still gonna probably run a mop through here, but when I get in runs like this, I'll certainly go underneath the rod tip, but that's 10% of my fishing. And if you can really get away from that and start fishing upstream and back, try to get really good at casting, it's gonna really add this whole other level to Euro nymphing for you. So I'll just show you what I did there. So the first couple casts I made, I actually worked from there. Typically I'd worked from back to front, but I actually went the opposite way just because this is the best spot I can stand in. If I'm down there, I'm actually too far away. It's too heavy water. So I shot, I don't know how many casts across, and I worked this top, and I got maybe 2 feet of drift, popped it out, 2 feet of drift, and I actually worked backwards, and I was just covering different water, and that was right across there, and he popped it like immediately into the drift, and that's what you're gonna get when you fish like that. There's one last thing I want to say about those long casts. It's important to stay ahead of it. So you don't want to make that long cast and let your bugs get ahead of the rod tip. So you really gotta make sure when you're casting to adjust that rod tip downstream of it, so when it lands you're tight and you can get that quick drift. So just make sure your rod tip is always ahead of your sighter on those long casts. All right, we're gonna wade over here and hit that eddy over there. Pretty smooth all the way down there. Get in the right position here. And I'm gonna shoot it across. Want to swing it by that edge. There we go. So what I did, oh God, that was a nice fish. Damn. Oh, that was a hell of a nice fish. Oh. That was a hell of a nice fish. You know, like I said before, it is a moral victory. I mean, think about it. When you fool a large fish like that, you've done something right. So you gotta, you know, look at the positive side. Don't, you know, get all dejected because you lose a big fish. I mean, of course I wanted that fish, but you know, you want to celebrate a small victory because you did something right to get an apex predator like that to hit your fly. And what I did is I shot it way over there, and the current kind of swings back this way. So even though I shot it over across that seam, what happened was the drift, it actually drifted back, hit that seam, and went down maybe a couple feet, and he nailed it. So once again, I mean, I lost it, but there is a bit of a victory, and it's you should celebrate the fact that you get a big fish to hit your bugs because you did something right. We want to catch them all, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. I mean, that's heavy current, and I was trying to put some heat on, and the hook just popped. Kind of inching my way over. Maybe a 10 or 15 foot drift is all I'm really expecting here. go. Oh, he fought bigger. God, I love it. He hit the properly all glass Pezon, size 20. Thank you there, little buddy. So this is the type of water that you can see I was working in front of me and I'd stop right here. There's no need to go past me here. It just starts really picking up volume. From right here and forward, it's a little bit slower. It just starts rolling down because the elevation, you know, it just starts going down there and picks up a lot of speed there. So just really I was just making really efficient casts, getting a good 10-foot drift or so, and just popping it back out there, drift, pop it back out, drift. Maybe just 2 times in each lane and maybe 6 inches at a time, because these fish in this fast water, they're not moving fast. They're gonna, or moving far I should say, they're just gonna hug their lane, and that bug's gotta be right in their grill. Just upstream, drifting to right there, put it right back in. Just making sure I'm getting really nice drift through here. Really covering all this water, inch by inch. Just a little step. I don't want to be anxious in getting that nice eddy, because they could be right here. Obviously they were. Okay. People ask me, well, how many casts do you make? And I can't really give you a number other than I just kind of know I've covered it. Like I was getting really good drifts, and I made maybe 5 or 6 casts. I'm going to do a couple more here just to make sure, but that's it. It's not a certain number of casts. You just got to realize you're getting really good drifts, and at some point you just got to say, you know what? I did my best. Time to move on. This looks like the best spot in this riffle here because there's a little depth. There it is, right there. That's where I thought he'd be. I went to a single fly. Just put a 16 olive glass Pezon on. Got it cruising right through there. Made the perfect drift. Really short drift. Boy, he is pretty. Ah, there's tar marks. Boy, what a beautiful chunk. Look at that guy. Good looking brownie. All of this kind of looks the same, but there's a little bit of a depression there. I'm probably 15 feet away. Really short cast. Just up and back to me. I'm not letting it go past me. There's no need. There's nothing there. These are 10-foot drifts at most, probably more like 8 feet. Just getting my bugs down, getting tight right away, and he popped it kind of right in front of me. There we go. Oh! That was cool. Look how many casts are made there. Got off. Damn. I don't know how many casts I made there. I took one step closer and actually got vertical, and that was 12 feet in front of me. But the clarity of the water allowed me just to, I was standing right here on that flat rock. So I took 1-2 steps forward, brought my flies through the same area, except I just got a better drift, really got it stable and got vertical right there, and he popped it. Really short drift. So there's that rock. and that was a 5-foot drift. And I'm only fishing to here. Once again, I'm not going down here. That's not good. Focus on driving the bugs down, getting a good 5 to 6 foot drift right through there. Lift up and repeat. So I'm going to be calling it quits here today. I had a heck of a day. I hope you got something out of the video. I really wanted to show you that Euro nymphing is much more than just fishing underneath the rod tip. I think I said earlier, maybe 10% of my fishing during the day is actually that, but it's longer casts. I really focus on these short, perfect drifts and take what the river gives you, meaning, you know, not everything is perfect squares. You know, you're not lining up and getting this perfect drift going left to right or right to left. Sometimes, you know, you're gonna take what the river gives you. And what I mean by that is, if the river's curving around, you can make a longer cast, take advantage of that. But once again, my piece of advice to you is just focus on these really short drifts, make sure they're perfect, deliver the cast, and just think your way around the stream. If you're in a situation and you can only get a 5-foot drift, figure out where do I need to be standing and how do I deliver my bugs so I can make that perfect drift in that short amount of space. And I really think if you focus on that and forget about how long does my drift need to be, just focus on a short, perfect drift, your success rate is gonna go up. I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Happy to help you out. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate if you give me a thumbs up. And as always, tight lines, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.